I, nearly adult male, have been in therapy for many years. I don't go so often anymore, like once a month. But when I was younger, starting at age 6, I went twice a week and eventually once a week. Therapy is a place that continues to help me after a traumatic experience when I was 5. The only people other than my parents I ever told about the experience were my maternal grandparents and my best friend I've known since I was 4. When Mom died and Dad got remarried, I had zero wish to tell my stepmother. I never cared that deeply about her to tell her, and I don't trust her that much. She's not in my inner circle of trust and love, which is what my therapist helped me see it as. The inner circles are the people I'm okay with telling, and it might never grow much. It makes it easier for me. My dad always struggled with the fact that I never told my stepmother. He asked me for permission to tell her before. I told him I wasn't okay with that. He asked me why. I told him she wasn't part of my inner circle. A couple of times he brought it up around his wife, and she started asking questions. Anne was hurt to hear my best friend knew because he was a kid, but not her, an adult, and she considers herself my parent even though I don't. Then a couple of weeks ago, my dad told her anyway. He knew I wasn't okay with it. He never had my permission. I'd always refused to tell her myself. She tried to talk to me about it, but I refused. I told my dad I would never forgive him for telling her, that I'll never trust him again. I told him he was now removed from the circle, and technically, I only had one parent still in there, and I couldn't even talk to her because she had died. My dad claimed my reaction was too harsh, and I shouldn't remove him from the circle. His wife told me she felt she earned her place in the circle. I told her she was never close to the circle and would never have been part of it. I told her if my wishes had been respected, she would never have known about my past trauma. I refused to forgive my dad or engage with either of them on the topic. So my dad and his wife wanted us to go to a therapy session together, and I put my foot down and said no. They told me it was the only way to move forward as a family, and therapy can help us. I said I only invite people I love and trust into therapy with me. My dad said I couldn't stop loving him over this, and I admit it, I hadn't, but I no longer trusted him. His wife asked if it was her I didn't love, and I said yes. They accused me of acting out of malice and contempt and said that I'd regret it in the future. They also told me I needed to leave room for differences of action and opinion. I told them this was not something to be shared with anyone against my will, and my dad made his choice, and he chose to lose my trust. They keep insisting that I need to attend therapy, and I need to give this a chance to be resolved and for us to move on. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. The bottom line is that it's your information to share. It happened to you, and as such, you've made it clear you didn't want your stepmother to know. They confronted you with it. It's not a wonder you no longer trust your father. Your stepmother only further removed herself from your life. I can't even imagine the depth of betrayal. The dad put the stepmom's curiosity over the son's mental health. It's not a stepmom's choice decision. It's about satisfying this woman's ego over protecting his well-being. She's only his wife, not your stepmother. I hope you find peace one day. You sound like a very together young man. I think the father put himself before the OP. He's the one who couldn't keep that secret from his wife and started spilling the milk, which made her curious. I have some compassion for the father, as was probably too big of a secret, and he needed to vent his own feelings about it over the years. But he chose unwisely. He should have registered himself for therapy to secure a truly confidential ear and support. Your dad has no leg to stand on. You're not acting with malice by enforcing a clearly stated boundary. He's minimizing and distracting by turning it into a "you're so wrong for treating us this way" thing. It's pathetic, really. Remind him that someone doesn't get to hurt another person, then decide how that person responds. My wife, 30, and I, 30 male, have been married for 4 years now. We both work and are successful in our jobs. I love her a lot. We do not have any children yet. Last year, my wife told me she wanted to stop cooking because she was getting too tired and no longer enjoyed cooking. I understand and told her it was okay. For context, my wife and I used to split the cooking. From that day on, I was the only one cooking, and we started eating out more frequently. I thought this would subside in a few months, and my wife would change her mind. I really miss my wife's cooking because I really enjoyed her meals. I asked my wife a few months ago, and she said she just didn't want to cook again anymore. I was sad, but I still loved her, and my wife was thankful for me accepting it. Yesterday was my birthday, and I didn't celebrate it with my wife. I told my wife I would not celebrate it with her in advance. My sister, 28, invited me for dinner. She didn't want my wife to come because she disagreed with what my wife's been doing over the past year. My sister had cooked all my favorite meals for my birthday. It was almost a year since I had a home-cooked meal, and it was the best meal I've ever had. Was I the idiot for not celebrating my birthday with my wife? My wife was sad about yesterday. Wait, your sister had an opinion about your home life and the choices you all make, and because of that opinion, she refused to invite your wife to your birthday dinner? Instead of calling your sister out for meddling in your private family affairs, you use this as an opportunity to make a passive-aggressive comment to your wife. Absolutely, you are the idiot. To me, this is terrible. It's one thing if a spouse is abusive or nasty and the family circles around a victim. It's another thing to allow your family to have opinions about your home life that create division within your marriage. You should have told your sister to mind her own business instead of allowing her to use your birthday dinner to make a statement to your wife. Of course she's sad, and you're an idiot. Are you 5? You didn't cook a home-cooked meal in a year, but you're mad your wife didn't? You snitched on your wife to your sister, like a child, and now you're both punishing her? My guy, really? You are the idiot. So is your sister. I hope you grow up or your wife finds a new husband. Update. I want to clarify a few things. I do still cook meals, but less frequently now. I should have clarified in my previous post that I hadn't had a home-cooked meal cooked by someone else for almost an entire year until my sister cooked me an amazing dinner on my birthday. I haven't pressed my wife on this because she just doesn't want to cook anymore, and I don't want to force her to do things she doesn't enjoy doing. I asked her once a few months ago, and it was clear she would never enjoy cooking ever again, and I was okay with it. However, I did talk about this with my sister. I didn't vent. I just talked about it normally. My sister and I are close, and we talk about a lot of things. My sister has a strong personality, and fundamentally, she doesn't agree with what my wife is doing. She didn't want my wife at her house for my birthday. She has also never liked my wife but tolerated her because she's my wife. My wife doesn't know about my sister's feelings towards her, and it's for the best if she never knows about it. I talked to my wife this morning and we had a heart-to-heart discussion. We both talked about how much we still love each other. My wife was still sad about yesterday, and I told her that while I still loved her more than ever, last night's dinner was the best meal I ever had in my life, and I would do it all over again. I told her that while I completely respected her decision not to cook anymore, my sister disagreed, and I couldn't change my sister's mind. My wife accepted it, and we moved on with the rest of our day as normal. Man, the fact that you're framing this whole situation as some Harden versus Curry debate between your wife's cooking and your sister's opinions is bizarre. It's like you've drafted them both into some weird domestic league where your approval is the trophy. You gotta step back and ask yourself, why is your sister's critique given courtside seats while your wife's feelings are benched? Sure, sibling bonds are strong, but marriage is about partnership, not making it an episode of Iron Chef. Both you and your sister need a reality check. Team up with your wife and get your priorities straight, or you might find yourself solo in the kitchen with takeout as your new family. My ex-wife and I have a twin son together. We broke up when he was a young toddler after I found out she was cheating on me. Right after I left her, she told me she was pregnant and attempted to pass the baby off as mine. But I knew, based on how far along she was, that it couldn't be mine. We hadn't been together like that for months at that point, but she kept trying until she was 5 months, when she conceded that I wasn't buying it. Her baby didn't make it at 7 months, and what was already a bitter enough divorce. I was mad she cheated. She was mad that I refused to buy that her kid was mine and didn't want to make our marriage work. When she lost the baby, she did everything she could to make me pay for the funeral. She even attempted to sue me for the money when I didn't give her anything, but it was thrown out. During the divorce, we had a DNA test done on our tween son, and he was mine, and we split custody. My ex has been in a few relationships since and has 3 additional children. She remarried a few months ago, and she's currently pregnant with baby number 5, but she's struggling, and so is her marriage. She wrote a very long email about all this and asked me to give her extra money for 2 of her kids who have birthdays coming up, but she has nothing for them because money's so tight. She's also told me to take our son shopping for gifts for them, on top of giving her money directly for gifts. I thought she was going crazy at first, but she was serious. I told her that would not be happening, that my duty's to my son and not to her additional children. She told me I must make sure his family's taken care of. I told her I take care of my kid. I pay child support, despite having our son equally to her, 50-50, because it's acknowledged that I earn more. But I won't be paying for her to have more kids with other people. She called me heartless, told me I could easily afford it and then some. She said I was just as heartless as when I made sure her late child didn't have a nice funeral. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. If I were you, I would document the interactions and use her financial situation as a reason you should have full custody. Since she's having an issue providing for all of her kids without your assistance, you can gladly take your son full time, and she can have visitation. I would also ask where your child support payments are being used, that they're only used to care for your child and not the others. She tried to pawn off 1 kid as yours, and how she's doing it again with 2 more when she has a husband. Yikes! Pack your bags because you're going on a guilt trip. Please continue to ensure your son's well-being. It's unfortunate for your ex's other children because they are kids, but you're under no obligation to take care of or provide for them. Actions, hers, have consequences, and she needs to be responsible for them. A tween does not need to purchase gifts for a sibling. If he wants to, he can make a gift or a card. This is just another way for your ex to have others take care of her responsibilities. So, my cat Barry died 3 months ago of old age. I've been absolutely devastated. We adopted him and we've had him since I was 6, and I was very attached to him. I'm 21 now and really wanted to get something in memory of him, and since he was a black cat, I got a small tattoo of a black cat in memory of him on my arm. My sister, 27, didn't like him much and doesn't like animals in general, but she never did anything to hurt him whatsoever. The thing is, we were all at my cousin's engagement party 2 days ago. Since we're all close, we helped him with the preparations and stayed late to help his mom, my aunt, and dad with the house and cleaning up. We sat down to talk and it was late, and my aunt's husband asked what happened to our cat, and I explained to him, and he said he was sorry to hear that and the usual stuff. I showed my family the tattoo and that I got it for Barry. My sister looked at my tattoo and said, "Stupid, that won't bring him back." I was in complete shock. Like some humiliated loser, I just mumbled, "I'm trying to do something kind in his memory. I love that cat a lot." She laughed and said it wasn't that. It was that a tattoo was nasty and unnatural and made me look unclean. She also likes to pretend to be very religious. She doesn't practice religious as needed, and said, "How will you give your body back to the Lord with a tattoo?" I said, "How will you give your body back to the Lord with a nose job, an eyebrow lift, lip filler, and veneers?" I know she's had more done, but I don't care. She just started shaking and crying, snot running down her mouth, saying I was questioning her loyalty to God and having a complete mental breakdown. My family is furious at me, so I just came here. Am I the idiot? Should I apologize? It really hurt how she treated my memory of Barry, so I don't feel like apologizing, but I don't know. I also want to add that I'm not against plastic surgery, nor do I care. I just wanted to clap back at her. Not the idiot. I'm sorry, but your response was hilarious. Well played. But wow, your sister's a major witch and an idiot. So sorry to hear about Barry. I'm in my 60s and completely understand how you feel. Nothing to be ashamed of, and props for honoring his memory. Your family's wrong. thinking you should apologize. Your sister owes an apology and needs to grow up and not judge others. LMAO. Fast comebacks like this are amazing. She can dish it out but can't take it. OP, well done for whipping that witty retort right back at her. She likely responded that strongly because of a lack of a legitimate response to your spot-on observation. It was an immature defense mechanism, and your parents are enabling her. Your sister sounds like a pretty unhappy person. Good for you for standing up for yourself. My wife and I met 20 years ago when we were 22 and 25, respectively. Back then, we looked the same age, but now at 45, I look like I'm in my mid-50s, while at 42, my wife looks like she's in her late 20s. We've lived in the same neighborhood since we married, but we recently had to move and change our kids' school. So nothing prepared me for how incredibly awkward it would be for me to enroll our kids in a new school and get to know new neighbors when I look like I'm in my 50s. My wife looks like she's in her late 20s, and our kids are both teenagers. It's one thing for people to assume I have a controversially young wife when it's just the two of us. I couldn't care less, but it's another when I have to introduce our children, because if they think my wife is around 28, it would make me seem like a creep who got an underage girl pregnant. I asked my wife if she could start mentioning her age when we introduced ourselves, but she said I was being ridiculous and that it would be incredibly awkward for her to do so. I don't think it's ridiculous to want to avoid being labeled a creep. Am I the idiot if I insist that she needs to tell her age when we meet new people after she already said no? You are the idiot. So what if people judge? Take it as an, I have a hot wife and they're jealous, and move on. Also, unless you're like 5 years old, it's awkward to just throw your age out in introductions. Women hate that stuff. It's like a cardinal rule to never ask a woman's age, let alone just throw it out there in conversation. This was my husband's response when I tried to get him to start wearing sunscreen. I warned him he would be sad when he realized he was old and leathery, and I still looked young and hot. He said, I won't be sad because I'll have a young, hot wife. By the way, he was mistaken for my dad recently, so he really needs to wear sunscreen. OP, I bet most people don't actually think she looks that young. More likely they know she's older, but just looks good for her age. Yay, sanity. I'm sure OP's wife is beautiful and looks great for her age. That said, nobody thinks a 28-year-old has 2 teenage children. I'm sure they think she looks like a lovely 40-something, which is exactly what she is. God, why do I have this feeling that the OP is one of those men who thinks that women in their 40s, or gasp, 30s, look old, whatever the heck that means, and simply because a woman looks attractive and wears her age well, he thinks she looks like she's in her 20s? OP probably thinks that because his wife doesn't look like a train-wrecked hag, that she looks like 20s, because all other women fall off a cliff after 40. Duh. Dude, maybe you should have copied your wife's skincare routine. They won't think you knocked up a teen. They'll think you dumped the kid's bio mom. Either way, who cares? When you make friends, they'll learn that didn't happen. Introducing with ages is weird.